Jesse Waters primetime tonight.
Rita, I'm reliving the same day over and over.
Donald Trump, January 6th, more charges.
The wind is really windy.
Biden knows nothing. He's just a weatherman.
I'll turn this damn bus around. That'll end your precious little field trip pretty damn quick.
$400 million for a migrant bus. And Dr. Fauci, arrested?
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Fox News alert. Biden's Justice Department has just brought criminal charges against Donald Trump, his political opponent, for the third time in 4 months. This time, the charges relate to January 6th.
Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail.
That was Special Counsel Jack Smith, who looked like a bedraggled, nervous wreck, dripping with anger and highly emotional. The last time Jack Smith charged a politician, the case was so weak it got tossed out of the Supreme Court unanimously. Now, Biden's Justice Department is using obscure federal statutes to put a former president in prison for the rest of his life. These charges aren't bribery, not assault, not tax evasion, not sex trafficking. They're charging Trump under the Act of 1866. It was used against the Klan, and now they're using it against Trump. Here are the specific charges. Count 1, conspiracy to defraud the United States. Count 2, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. Count 3, conspiracy or attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. And count 4, conspiracy against rights. Okay, now here's how they're saying Trump broke the law. They're saying Trump lied that the election was fraudulent when he really knew the election was clean, and that these lies made it hard for the government to certify the election. Now, first, they said Trump called a bunch of state legislators in Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin and tried to get them to investigate election fraud, hold hearings. Okay? Then the government says Trump tried to get some states to send in Trump electors instead of Biden electors. And only a tiny handful of states did that. They mailed in some Trump electors to the archivist and to the Senate, and then the Senate threw them in the garbage and ratified the Biden electors. That was it. Then they're saying Trump broke the law when he asked Pence to do the right thing, to not certify and kick it back to the states. That was a different legal interpretation than many people had at the time, but it was a difference of opinion. And it didn't matter because Pence didn't do it. And then they're saying the January 6th protesters, because of Trump's lies, slowed down the certification for a couple hours. That's it. Those are the charges. Now, I know this doesn't count in a court of law, but do you think Trump had any idea that he was breaking the law when he was asking Mike Pence not to certify? And how are you going to prove that Trump knew there wasn't any election fraud? And how are you going to prove that these were corrupt intentions if Trump thought he was doing the righteous thing? You can't. It was just politics. It's all politics. He was pushing it as far as he could, and maybe he pushed it a little too far. But should he die in prison for that? I don't think the Biden administration realizes what it's done here. It's going to give Donald Trump the opportunity to relitigate the 2020 election in federal court. This is what Donald Trump's been dying to do for the last 2.5 years. He's going to have subpoena power. He's going to cross-examine witnesses. He's going to put on his own witnesses. He's going to go out and prove or try to prove there was election fraud in Philly, Vegas, Arizona, Detroit. And the federal government is going to have to prove that it was clean in those deep blue counties. That's going to be a fun one to follow. So Trump's due in court on Thursday for the January 6 charges. So in case you're keeping score at home, Donald Trump will be on trial in 3 different courtrooms next year, an election year, while he's running for president, while he's fundraising, and while he's debating. So he'll be in court on bookkeeping charges with Stormy Daniels in Manhattan in March. He'll be in a Florida courtroom beginning in May on the Mar-a-Lago documents case. And he'll be in a D.C. courtroom on the January 6th charges, probably in the spring as well. He needs a body double. And this is a D.C. jury in a case overseen by an Obama-appointed judge who has got a nasty track record. Oh, and there's another Georgia election-related grand jury considering charging Trump. So he can have 4 trials next year. And we also may be looking at a President Biden impeachment trial next year as well. So, legally speaking, Trump's going to have to pay lawyers a lot of money.
When you have these woke revolutions, it requires all of us at some point to say, no, not going to.
And if he's convicted, he will not go to prison. He'll be freed on appeal, and he'll be able to appeal these federal charges all the way to the Supreme Court, which will take a while, probably until after the election. And there's no way the Supreme Court of the United States is going to uphold a conviction of a former president close to 80 years old. That's not how the court operates, especially on something as political as this. Now, the timing of this indictment was coordinated to take the heat off Biden. This is the 3rd time this has happened. You ready? On March 17th, Hunter admitted the laptop was his. And on the very next day, Trump received word Alvin Bragg was indicting him in New York. On June 8th, an FBI document broke that Ukraine paid Biden a $5 million bribe. And the next day, on June 9th, Biden's DOJ indicts Trump on the Mar-a-Lago documents. Yesterday, on July 31st, a Biden insider told Congress that Biden spoke with Hunter Biden's business partners dozens of times, and Hunter was paid handsomely to get his dad to fire the prosecutor in Ukraine. And then today, August 1st, Biden's Justice Department indicts Trump on January 6 charges. This isn't a coincidence. Anytime Biden's in trouble, Trump pays for it, and the news cycle flips. Now, Donald Trump is a runaway favorite to wrap up the Republican nomination and is currently tied with Joe Biden in yesterday's New York Times poll in the general, 43-43. Astonishingly, after these political war crimes have been perpetrated on him, Donald Trump is in the best position he's been in so far to win re-election. Can you believe that? At which point he'll have to pardon himself immediately. And don't you think for a second he's not going to unleash hell on all of his political enemies. This is only the beginning of politicians putting other politicians